Hi everyone and welcome to SuttonsDaze. This is a little bit of a preparedness video, just kind of a little bit of a summary, some thoughts, some things to consider. Cliff actually emailed me after the update video and said that if I was up to it, this would probably be a really good thing to do. And I think he's right. And I wasn't quite sure how to do it respectfully. And without giving you more than you needed to know. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just going to I'm going to wing this. I made a list. I've talked it over with Phil. I talked it over with Darcy. It's just kind of working through my head saying, how can I share some of the things that we learned? This was, like I said before, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my entire life. My mother's care became our responsibility. And I mean her entire care, okay? With everything going on with COVID, there were restrictions and limitations, and there are people that have had to suffer much worse than what my mother did and what we did. We were very fortunate that when she called me and said, "Get me out of here, I don't want to die here," that we could do so. She was in a nursing home. She was in the hospital. She was back in the nursing home. She was back in the hospital. She was back at the nursing home. And she was just tired. She was just tired of being poked and prodded and getting no relief from any of it, you know? And she was really fed up with the nursing home. I did have the availability to me because I was her advocate, that I was able to go in and see her in the hospital. I was able to go in one time into the nursing home. I was the only person that they've allowed in that nursing home since COVID started in March, okay? But I kind of got a little forceful about it also. So when I went to see her in the nursing home, I found out that she was because they quarantine people for 2 weeks when they come in. Well, the problem is she came in, she left, she came in, she left, she came in, she left. So she was like constantly under quarantine. And where she was quarantined at was the very last room at the very end of the hallway, the farthest possible that you could be from the nurse's station. So there was no way for her to get something to drink unless somebody happened by. You know what I mean? At one point, she, couldn't press the button on the call button. There were any number of issues, So when I went to see her, I realized the situation. And so when she called me, I think it was the next day, and she said, "Get me out of here. I don't want to die here." And I said, "Okay." And I talked to all the staff there, and there was the understanding that if she came home, she was coming home to die. And so I made sure that she understood that, and she did. So they contacted hospice. Now, I am completely ignorant to all of this. I know nothing about any of this. It was definitely trial by fire, and we learned as quickly as we could about everything. So they called hospice. And it took us, it took us a good couple days to make this all happen. But they called hospice. Hospice called the company that brings out the equipment. And they brought out a bed. And they brought out the oxygen machine. They brought out one of those tables that goes over the bed, And they brought out, well, that was the equipment company. And then a nurse came out. And she got here just shortly after my mother did. So the ambulance brought my mother, and we were very fortunate that the nursing home accidentally put a couple of bed pads with her. And so they transferred the bed pads with her, and they stayed. And I'm grateful for that because they were very helpful. And then the nurse came from hospice, and she provided us some information, kind of took stats of my mom, talked to my mom for a little bit, and then left us with a bunch of stuff, okay? And so I kind of wanted to go over with you some of that stuff and how I am now preparing our kit here for emergencies like this, similar to this, if we ever have to go through this again, which I sincerely hope we don't. Some of the things that we learned, because last minute we were scrambling. I mean, just flat out scrambling. All of a sudden we had a hospital bed in the dining room, but it had no sheets. There's not a twin bed anywhere in this house and has never been. So we had to run up real quick to the thrift store and get some sheets and wash them and put them on the bed, you know, and that was before she actually arrived. And then, oh man, it was just crazy. So they dropped off disposable bed pads. They dropped off, you know, adult diapers. They dropped off the larger wipes, like baby wipes, only they're slightly larger. There were, you know, they supply theoretically everything that you're going to need. Okay. But there's no lessons involved. Now, thanks to COVID, hospice is pretty much now the nurse and, or nurses, the RN, the LPN, and aides. And when we first started, my sister was here and Phil was here, but my sister could not handle it. And some people just can't, and I get that. And it's very difficult because after a couple days, my sister told me she couldn't handle it. And so she left, which left me in, quite honestly, a panic I've never experienced. I'm very fortunate that I have an amazing husband. Very fortunate. He stepped right in and he said, I'll help you. You can do this. Because it was a two-person job. Because hospice and COVID, there are no volunteers. There are no volunteers. So there wasn't an extra person that could be here for the multiple times that we had to change her, and just to give some kind of backup support. What they did do is they stepped up and they said, we will have somebody there once a day, every day, Monday through Friday. Okay, that leaves Saturdays and Sundays. I don't know what I'm going to do, but okay, fine. And so for once a day, we had somebody that came in and knew what they were doing, you know, and so I could learn on the fly an easier way to handle changing her, an easier way to pull her up on the bed, an easier way to, you know, do everything. Because the bed, you know, she was sitting up on the bed. Well, when you're sitting up on the bed, but you can't control how you're moving, you tend to slide down. And so we would have to, you know, hoist her up. And that's when you can't literally hoist her up and she can be of no assistance, that's a little challenging. Okay, I don't want to get into too much detail, but there were just some things that I guess we didn't know, we didn't expect, like the sheets, you know, we're last minute, we're just kind of scrambling, trying to make sure that she is comfortable and that we were able to handle what was going on as best as we could. And I thought that we would share some of this information. So my mother, I've always been my mother's person, you know, when it comes to legal stuff. So my name was on her vehicle. My name, you know, was on her bank account. My name was on anything important. And so we had that part handled. We were very fortunate. My mother didn't have a house, you know, that she was leaving. She had nothing that she was leaving people, you know. So over the course of that week, though, we did talk, and she told me some of the things that she would like to go to some of the people, you know, including her daughters and her friends. And so I made those notes, and, you know, we started seeing to some of that, and I called her friends and you know, helped do all that. I had the contact information for her friends because she gave me that. And that was a very difficult thing to do. So one of the things that you want to try to put in order if you have an opportunity is some kind of will, okay? Even if it's just, you know, handwrite it, take it to the bank where they have notaries. Most of the time, if you have an account at the bank, they'll notarize something for you, okay? Find out what the rules and regs are with that. You don't need to go get a whole lawyer thing, you know, to make that happen. And make sure you have an advance directive, because she was pretty much at the point where she couldn't sign her own name. But they accepted her signature because they found her to be coherent enough to understand what she was signing, is that she was signing me guardianship of her. That's nothing that we had in place prior to this. So an advance directive and a will of some sort are really important. And if you have, anybody that, you can trust, that you can put their names on your vehicles or on your bank account, it makes it just that much easier to handle things that need to be handled, because that way I could go in and pay her bills and, do that kind of thing while all this was going on and she was unable to take care of it. So just a list of some of the things, we kind of made up a little list here of some of the things that it might not be a bad idea to have on hand just in case. One is extra pillows. Now, we had a ton of pillows. We no longer have a ton of pillows. But we had extra pillows, and so they helped us to move her on the bed so that she wasn't laying flat, not dealing with bed sores. So, one time she would be more tilted to the left, and the next time she would be more tilted to the right. And she joked that, she felt like a burrito. Okay, but she was tucked in there and there was no worries about anything, and she was moving to the point that she was being moved so that she wasn't developing any kind of bed sores. Bed sores are very serious and very difficult, so you want to do everything you can to prevent that. And in addition to just regular pillows, a wedge pillow or those Tootsie Roll pillows. A wedge pillow is really great for behind them. Very helpful. One of those Tootsie Roll kind of pillows is very good to have on hand to put under ankles so that the heels and stuff are not resting on the bed, because that's really important. You will get bed sores there rather quickly. So, sheets, extra sheets, extra pillows of various kinds, mattress pads, very, very helpful. If you have the ability and know where to get them, and I'm assuming you can probably find them on Amazon, the bed pads are very helpful because they're so super strong. Not the disposable ones. They're so super strong that you can actually use them with somebody else to help pull somebody up on a bed if you need to, or to roll them, because we would have to roll her to one side and then we'd have to roll her to the other side. And that helps, much easier than a sheet, surprisingly. So having those on hand is kind of helpful. But the disposable ones are really great too. We would use those as backup. You can't roll anything with them, but they're definitely great for catching any kind of, issues. They provided those. They provided the adult diapers. They provided the large wipes. They also provided like those small dish pans. I don't know what they're called. Okay. And so we use those and put hot water in those to put the wipes in so that they were warm and comfortable for her when we had to do any cleaning. And then it's also a really, really good idea to have some kind of diaper cream, a really good diaper cream. Investigate, learn about them. I know nothing about them. I never birthed anything. So it was all new to me. I know what diaper rash is, and I know what, I know that kind of stuff, but I was not familiar with what to get or where to get it or anything else. But luckily they provided that. But if you're building a kit, these kind of things are very helpful just to have in there. Now, they're not going to last forever, but if you rotate them out every 5 years or so, it's not a waste necessarily. It's good to have on hand and helpful. It's very helpful. Now, I had literally just super stocked up on trash bags. And I can tell you that we were emptying the trash container, 7-8 times a day. And so having trash bags, a lot of extra trash bags in stock, is always very helpful. I've always got them in my pantry. They're part of my non-food pantry. I like having literally a couple of years worth of trash bags. So I was very grateful that those showed up when they did. Just another thing that you just don't realize that you might need, extra blankets, also another thing. And maybe not ones that you're terribly, attached to. Because for me anyway, I couldn't keep them. It was just not something I was capable of. So You know, extra blankets to make sure they're warm, extra pillows to make sure they're tucked in and propped up any way they need to, extra sheets, because you will be changing sheets pretty often. Then there's dealing with things like keeping track of certain things. Food is something we had to react rather off the cuff about. Ensure or Glucerna, it doesn't hurt to have a case of those around. They don't last forever, but they, you know, I'm sure if you've ever tried them, they're not bad to drink. So, you know, they'd be a nice little meal replacement once you get close to the date and you need to, you know, rotate them out. It's good to have those around because they do help. Foods like cottage cheese, yogurt, water's important. Straws. We don't drink with straws out of here. And the straws that we do have are for our portable cups, and they're metal, okay? And that was not going over well. So we had to run out and get straws, so that she could, you know, so that she could drink. You know, just all these things that are kind of popping back into my head as I'm talking with you. It's, we have a blood pressure cuff. I've been meaning to get a pulse ox. So now the pulse ox is ramping up on my list quickly, and a thermometer. And it's very helpful if you can afford it to get one of those thermometers where you can read it off the forehead, you know. Worth it to have in your arsenal. It really is. And some things I learned on what ended up being her last day. I became extremely concerned because I don't know what I'm doing, because I was winging it for, you know, almost 2 weeks and had never been through any of it before. And so when she was sleeping a lot, which I believe was due to the medication, and then she started breathing kind of erratically, and I got panicked. And then I found out that it's called a death rattle, and it's the breathing, and it's very rattly. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's so uncomfortable to hear. It's terrifying. And it was a Sunday, and so obviously nobody was coming out. So I made a call, because they say call. Don't hesitate, call anytime for anything. So I did. And so the nurse came out, and she took her blood pressure and she took her pulse, and she explained that it's a death rattle. And what that means is when that happens, you have 24 hours or less. In addition to that, she took her pulse, which was elevated, and she took her blood pressure, which was ridiculously low. It was like 54/40 or something. So it just confirmed that we were near the end. So it was nice having somebody that could explain that. I really kind of believe that this is something that we all need to learn. It's not part of day-to-day life. And if you're not in the medical field, or you haven't been around somebody who's been ill or dying, it's things that you don't know, and you would have no cause to know. So I really think it's one of those things that they need to teach, you know? But they don't teach you how to balance a checkbook anymore, and they don't teach you how to cook anymore, and they don't teach you anything anymore. But this is one of those things that somehow we need to find a way to teach. I am ridiculously blessed that at 54 years of age, I have lost very few people. I was 19 when my grandmother died. I was 23 when my other grandmother died. I never knew any of my grandfathers because they passed away before I really knew them. So death has not been a part of my life at all. And this was one heck of an introduction. So I thank Cliff for bringing the idea out, and I thank Darcy and Phil for kind of walking through it with me. But I don't think that by any stretch of the imagination I know a whole lot. So if you have anything that you think that people should be prepared for, or that might be good to learn about, and I know I've got quite a few medical people in our community, I think it would be great to hear what your suggestions are for things that we should think about, things that we need to be aware of. If you end up in a similar situation where you are bringing a loved one home or have a loved one at home that you need to assist in their final days, and you're not familiar with any of it, it'd be good to have something to kind of refer back to, to go, I'm so glad somebody talked about this. I'm so glad I listened when somebody talked about this. I wish I had known of a video or something to prepare me for this. There was no way that I was ever prepared for this. And if I ever have to do it again, which I truly hope I don't, I hope that I'm a little better prepared. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask your friends for help. Accept help when it's offered. We would not have made it through as seamlessly as we didn't without the help and support of our friends and family. People that brought us food, people that ran errands for us, spouses that totally had your back. So thank you, Cliff, for encouraging me to share a little bit the lessons learned from dealing with end of life, and how maybe this will help some folks become a little more prepared for it. I'm hoping that this whole COVID thing lightens up, lessens up, goes away. It's not going to go away, but that we learn a new way to live with it so that help for people can be available when they need it the most. Okay, I hope this helps somebody, and until next time, be safe.